Hello guys, welcome to another video of Odia Engineer. So before I proceed today, I'd just like to quick announcement that we are starting BTP admin from 22nd November, 25th November is CloudALM. Also OSDB migration training we are having from 29th. We also introduce S4 HANA advanced level training and also the HANA database advanced level training. So you can also connect with my team on 8466888080 for training related queries and on the upcoming fees and all. You can also consider purchasing our recordings and technical documents from our website odiaengineer.com. So there you can visit digital marketplace and you can also get some coupons over there, and then you can claim those coupons and get some discount as well. So now let's move to today's session. So today's topic is more into the developer trace. So what are the different type of traces there in the system? So we are going to discuss about the different components and these traces, and how you're going to understand the traces and where exactly being stored, and what are the approaches you are going to follow. So ideally you have your different type of traces, which is your dispatcher trace, also work process trace, message server trace, and also your NQ server trace and gateway, and also the ICM trace. So ideally, the dispatcher trace format is dev underscore disp, which is your for the dispatcher, it is writing all the related information. Next is the work process related. Work process related again, we are using dev underscore w star. So it can be your depends on the number of work process. So the next important thing is your the gateway. Gateway we are using for dev underscore rd, and suppose you are going to check the message server trace. So you are going to use the file which is dev underscore ms, and also your ICM server is your dev underscore ICM. So also remember, whichever the traces you are collecting, all the traces are stored in the work directory. That's the default location of the traces. Okay, so now let's see how the trace files are going to be set in the system and how we're going to set individual traces, and so that you'll be getting a better idea. And then I'll also give you some important information how you're going to use the traces in your day-to-day life. So first thing is, let me just log into the system, since I'll show you in the system itself so that you'll be getting a better idea. Okay, so I'm in my SAP system right now. So first thing is I'm going to check the trace. So generally you can set the trace in two level. One, you can set the trace for individual component. You can also set the trace for the globally. It means it will be applicable for the all the components. It would be applicable for the dispatcher, work process, message server, NQ, and also your uh, ICM. For what are the services you, what are the component you see, it will be applicable for that. So to do that, you can just go to your RZ11. First check the parameter, what parameter you have for the trace. So generally for the trace activation, you can see harddisk slash trace. This is the parameter. You can just select on this one. And the number range for the parameter is 0 to 3. It means you can set 0, 1, 2, 3. So remember, do not set it 0, because the setting the 0 trace means it's not going to write any traces, which is again a very dangerous situation for your system. So it's highly recommended you should not set it 0. Okay, that's not possible. Ideally should not set it. I mean, I'm not saying that's not possible. You can set it, but in your real time, your system will not work because you don't have any logs. Next thing is that one is the default value which is set. It means I'm setting the value rdisk plus trace. It means it is applicable for all the components. Second thing is this set. If you're setting the trace level 2 or 3, it means what? It is going to generate more trace files. It means you need to be very careful that, because the frequency of trace would be little faster, little bit faster. So that's the reason, if you're setting these values 2 and 3, ensure that your file system is enough space, because all these trace that you see for work process, for your dispatcher, for your message server, all the traces are stored in the work directory, which is again related to your USR SAP SID, which is nothing but your installation directory. That's the reason it has a straight impact on your system. Be careful when you change the trace level. So this is the parameter. When you set it, it is going to set the trace for all the components. And generally, you should not change the parameter to 2 and 3, because it is again going to change for the all the components, the trace level. So better you change it for the individual components. So how to do that? So let's first discuss one by one. First is the dispatcher trace. To set the dispatcher trees, you need to go to SM50, the T code, and here you can see just go to the administration trace, scroll down to dispatcher. Here you can select the change trace level. Just select on the trace level. The moment you select it, here to select the change level. Suppose you want to make 2, you can select the trace level here. There are 4 trace levels in general. One is 0 is no trace, one is trace errors only, and this the option 2 is the full trace. Again, it's just going to take a lot of size from your file system. And this is your option number 3, which is your full trace with buffer, or you can say full trace with data blocks. So that's the reason if you change it, just change it and the value will be changing. Okay, so this is how you can change it for the dispatcher trace, and you want to collect the file. The moment you change it, just go to the dispatcher and save as the local file. Okay, once you display the file, you can just save as a local file and you can troubleshoot after that. Next thing is the work process trace. The same T code SM50. Just go to the administration here, trace, select active component, and select the work process type if you want to specify your choice. Trace level you can change it to from 1 to 3. If it is required for 2, you can change it, but never keep it for a longer time. Always keep the trace only for the shorter period of time if you're changing to 2 or 3. And here the components you need to select only the task handler, because this work process generally, you need to select the component only task handler. This will be collecting all the traces. You don't need to select all the components here. So the moment you save this option, and this is going to collect the trace for your work processes. You want to collect these files, you can just go to the this work process related files, the trace file, because it's going to generate dev underscore w star like w1, w2, w3. You can see those log files in the trace files you can see in the OS level in the work directory itself. So the next thing is we are going to discuss. So these are the two important things for the dispatcher and the work process trace. So the next thing is your message server trace. So for message server trace, the T code is SMMS. So once you go here, just go to your go to option here on the menu tab, and you can see in the trace level you can increase the trace level. So currently the trace level is 1. If I select an increase, it is going to change to the 2. Similarly, you can collect the file and you can do the troubleshooting. So be careful the moment you are increasing the trace. So go here to file and you can save it locally, and then you can troubleshoot it. If I want to increase it, let me just increase it quickly, and you can see it's changed to 2 right now. The same way I'm going to decrease the value. So to select on the trace level is decreasing. So now the trace level is 1. It's very important. So you need to know how to change the parameter and change the trace level. So next thing is the enqueue server. The enqueue server process is same. I'm not going to discuss again. SM12, there you can activate your developer trace itself. Next important thing is your gateway. So gateway is again an important thing, that if you are taking for the gateway trace, so the T code would be again SMZW. And from the SMZW itself, you can go to your this option, select the trace, go to the gateway and increase the level. The moment you increase the level, it will be collecting the traces, and then you can display the file or you can save the file. So this is very important if your programs are registered on the gateway server and those programs are not reachable or failing or something is happening, because generally the external programs are registered on the gateway side. If it's not working, then you need to take the trace level and you can increase the trace level for the troubleshooting. So important thing is your ICM. So the same thing, if you want to change the trace level in SMICM, go to the SMICM, and here you can go to the trace level and the trace file. Trace level, increase it, and default is 1, increase it to 2 or 3, decrease it to whatever the value you have, -1. So never set as 0, and just go to your for trace files and collect the save locally, and this is going to collect your ICM trace files. These are very, very important. All the files are going to be stored under the standard location. It would be standard location would be your work directory. If you see here ls-lart, and you can just select the file like this. You will see all these files, dev underscore work process, dispatcher, ICM, and then your RD, which is for the gateway. So all these things you are going to see. This is your standard location for your SAP traces will be stored there. So what's the impact of the SAP traces? Suppose that's all how you can to set it. So now let's just go a little bit on the impact side. So suppose you are setting the trace level high, it means what? Your traces are going to be generated very frequently and your file system will be full. And also increasing the trace level will cause performance issues as well because the frequency of generation of traces are very high. So that's the reason what you're going to do to protect your file system. You can restrict the size of the trace files. So for to do that, you can just go to RJ11 here and select the parameter trace logging or disk/trace logging. So here you can see I have switched on the trace logging option here and I've restricted the size to 50 MB. So it means what? Example for the dispatcher trace dev underscore disk. So I've switched on the trace logging. It means it is going to write the logs and the size restriction is 50 MB. So after it reaches to 50 MB, this will be renamed to old and the new file will be generated dev underscore disk. That's the standard process how your traces are going to work. And on understanding the traces and other things, you need to know, how to read the traces. Topic, but these are the important traces which you can take in your system and which is going to help you for your troubleshooting. And thank you for watching the video. And do not forget to like, share, and subscribe Odia Engineer. As I said, we have a lot of upcoming trainings are there, so you can consider joining those trainings. Our training is completely hands-on and end-to-end details we discuss. And also remember, we are also introducing our S4HANA live server, so where you can do the practice, you can access the OS level, also the HANA database and S4HANA 2022 server. If you need the server access also, you can connect with us. We are offering in a very affordable price, which you can use and get the experience, hands-on experience on S4HANA side. So that's all for now. So have a great day.